Hello there, and welcome to another one of my tutorials. And today we're going to be building up the semi-automatic brewer. And yes, I say semi-automatic because this is not like you can press a button and get the potion you want. This is one where you basically just put all the items in a chest and it will brew the potion for you. So let's just quickly go over this schematic here and show you what I mean. So obviously it's not built at the moment, so I can't click on these chests, but this chest is where you will put your items in. You put them in the order and then you flick the lever and it will drop them all off and start the whole brewing process. And you have this chest here which is for your blaze rods, your blaze powder. They will go down and fill this up. Only to 23 items in each, so you don't need to have it completely filled out. And then this will actually just be glass bottles with water in them, and this chest up here will have just empty glass bottles, and it will all auto refill the bottles in here. So basically you can stock up on those and have them all good for a very long time. And there's a water in here. It's quite simple, doesn't require a lot of resources. There's just a bit of a timing system at the end so that it can actually collect it, and that way it doesn't matter how many items you put into this, so you can do multiple different variants of potions. And what it will do is once the items are completed here, it will set off a timer around here which will allow the last item to be brewed. Once that's finished, it sets this off and also locks out the bottle hoppers here so that they won't fill up until after all of your potions have been removed, at which point they will come down this end and come out of this chest. I'll go over how to kind of rearrange that because you might not necessarily want that, and in my world I actually have this going up into a dropper tower so that I can basically put everything in from the top, so this is in the ground underneath me. The other thing is you've got this lamp here, and that was just basically an indicator to say that the items are being retrieved from the system, so don't press anything. I don't think it really matters that much. Now most of these stone blocks here aren't necessary, they're just for covering it up so you can actually see what you're doing, and you can remove pretty much most of these, and I'll do that now so that I can show you exactly what ones are needed and not. So these ones here aren't needed, and this one, and these ones here. Basically everything around here is not needed. I would suggest keeping the ones up here just to hold the bottles in so they don't get shot out anywhere, although I think these two here as well can be removed. So the resources that you will need to build this are shown in this chest here, and I'll just go over that quickly. So we've got all these blocks here of different colours. The smooth stone is essentially just blocks that are like walls, so they're just there to block something in. The grey concrete is to do with the rails and will block in the minecart hoppers, and then all of the light blue concrete is essentially for the redstone and all of these systems there. So obviously you can put in as much blaze powder as you want, but if you want to fill the system up you would need 64 plus 23 for each brewing stand, and then anything past that will get kept in the minecart hopper and then obviously up into your system. I personally just filled it out because it was much easier that way, not having to worry, and I can see from my chest at the top of the system whether I am starting to actually use any up or not. And then of course here you've got 2 droppers and 3 dispensers. It's difficult to tell from the image, so I'm just telling you now. There's 3 dispensers and 2 droppers, and you have 19 comparators and 5 repeaters there. These cobblestone here are one for a timing system and another one for a timing system, so you just need 51. I just separated them out just to show that these are for 2 different systems. Now as for retrieving the bottles and putting in your items and everything, we do have another chest here which isn't accurate. This is just dependent on how you want to set the system up. If you want to have it as this as the face of it on the wall, then you don't need any of those items, but if you want to actually have this kind of in the floor and you can be above it, then you will need this items here. So you can either have the rail and minecart hopper setup, which I'll show you a little bit later in the video, or you can use hoppers and droppers to obviously lift things up and everything like that. However, if you choose to have a hopper chain coming up from the central chest here, it will take a while for the items to go down, and I'll show you how I built it later in the episode, because that way it's using minecart hoppers and then it will actually go down very quickly, so you can pretty much activate it immediately and you won't run into any issues. But that is all for now. Let's just jump into starting this build, and it shouldn't take too long because, as I say, it looks a little bit complicated, but there's not a lot of blocks involved. So for the first layer, if you're going to have the chest in the wall, then you can place a double chest here, and this will be our starting point. Obviously, if you want to have the items go up, this is where you would use your hoppers to go into a dropper tower to bring it up, and that would just depend on how you want it set up. Then off of this we need to place a line of hoppers coming off like this, all connected, and you want to go 13 hoppers out, so like this. I've got 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 hoppers. Now we need to come 5 blocks out with your concrete or whatever block you're using to build your redstone on. Then off the side of this we're going to go 3 blocks along and another 3 blocks like that with 1 in the middle, so you have this shape here. You go 5 out, 3 across, and a little T shape off of that, and then 1 more block here, so you come 2 blocks out from there and 1 to the right, just like that. Then you need to come 3 blocks off of this, so you have 3 blocks coming off the back there, and then you want to go 2 blocks out on each side with a 2x2 square, just like that. Then we want to go 3 blocks off, and we're going to have 5 blocks off the back of that, just like that there. And that is basically where all of our redstone is going to be. Now of course if you're building this in the floor, you could actually just leave this these blocks from whatever was already there, your stone or whatever you're digging into. So now if you go 1 further back from the hoppers, so there should be a 1 block here that's open, and then you can come 2 off the side of that and break the 1 in the middle, so we have a block like that. Now where you have your 1 block sticking out, you're going to go 1 on top of there, come 2 off of that and 1 on the side, so you have this little T shape, and then you're just going to break the 1 in the middle. So now we're going to place a repeater going into this block on 4 ticks, with 2 redstone dust coming off of the side of that, and then we're going to make a small pulse extender off of there, so 2 comparators, 2 redstone dust, and then 2 more comparators going back in, and then we're going to place a redstone repeater going into that line on 4 ticks as well. Now going back to this repeater, we're going to make a smaller pulse extender, so we're just going to place 2 comparators back to back like that, and 2 redstone dust. Then we're going to have 1 redstone dust here, and we're going to put a repeater on 2 ticks. Then coming off of this pulse extender, we're going to have another repeater on 4 ticks, and now we're going to have the longest of our pulse extenders, so we're going to have 3 comparators going up and down, and just redstone dust on each side, and 1 redstone dust on the end. Off the side of that redstone dust we're just going to place a block, and then on the side of this block we're going to place a torch. Then off the side of this torch here we're going to place a line of 9 concrete blocks. You go 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, just like that. And then on the side of these blocks we want to place redstone torches all the way along, and then at the end we're going to place 1 more concrete block like that. Now you want to place 1 concrete on top of the final hopper here. Of course if you've connected that up then it's just in line with this last concrete we just placed. Now we just want to go 1 across from the second torch, so we're going to go 1 across like that and place a block 1 off of the floor. And now you want to take some of your rails. We're going to start with a powered rail going into the block, then we're going to place a normal rail, and then we're going to go along and place powered rails all the way along to the end here. Now because these torches will get switched off eventually, we're going to have to place a redstone block coming off the side of this rail here, so that block is now going to be powered no matter what when these get switched off. Now you can wait till the end to do this, or you can go ahead and put your minecart hopper in now. Now you want to place a concrete block on top of that redstone block and then extend those out to above the torch, and then place 1 coming back towards the hopper here, the hopper minecart, and then just break this block in the middle. So you should have this little 2 blocks and then 1 to the side and then 1 block above the redstone block. Now you can go in and place in your brewers. So we're going to place those just by clicking on the rails, and they should line up with these redstone torches, so you'll have the 9 there like that. Once you have those brewers in, you can start placing in your hoppers. So if you just click on the side of these, you can just place in 9 on each side, and it can be a little bit fiddly. Just try to aim for the middle of the bar like this, and then the same repeat on this side. So we have hoppers all the way along, and then you can also place hoppers in on top of the brewers like this, just making sure to click down so that they all face into your brewers. So now we have all the hoppers in place. So now before we finish off the timing system down the end, we're just going to start working on actually placing in all the brewing parts, and then we'll finish off the timing system at the end. So you place 1 comparator coming off of one of these hoppers. It doesn't really matter which one, but I think this is the most effective one to use. Then off the side of the comparator you need another block. Now on top of the block where you have your final hopper at the bottom, you're going to just place 1 block up. You're going to go 2 across on each side, and then come back 2 like this on the blaze rod side, and you're going to go back 1 on the water bucket side. Now for some strange reason I have a redstone block in here, I don't think it's actually necessary. I think it's just a mistake I made when building it and actually doubled up, because this one should reach the end anyway, so that shouldn't really be a problem. However, if you want to just put it in just to make sure that it's working, this is what I have in my world, so it does do the job. Now you want to take some redstone dust and run it along the line here above all of your torches, and at the end you're going to place a repeater here, and this is actually where we place the redstone lamp. So this can be also moved. You can move that however you like. You might need some more torches to kind of make a little chain, but essentially when this turns off, the redstone lamp will turn on, which means these are locked out. And actually I had put the lamp here, but it doesn't really matter. You can figure out where you want the lamp to go. I actually didn't end up using it in my world because I didn't think I really needed it, to be quite honest. Now this is where things will get a little bit strange, because you're going to have to do some rails. So we're going to place one block on top of that redstone block and another one coming off of that, and then on the side where you have your water bottles, you're going to place the redstone block like this. So just before the hoppers, you're going to place a rail, then off of that rail you're going to place a grey concrete, and then another one coming off, and then you can break the first one, so that now we have this little block sticking off the side. You can place a rail up there. It can be any rail. We're going to break that in a second, but then you will place a detector rail, and then you can break that and replace it with another block, so that that's blocking the minecart. Now you're going to place in some powered rails all the way down to the end. I'm going to go up to the blue block there, and once you've done that, off the side you're going to place the grey concrete in to block that off. So now you can come two across from that grey concrete and then place a blue one connecting into the hoppers here, and just break the middle block after, so you have this little triangle shape with a gap in the middle. Now we can place in the rails on this side, and you don't need to worry about connecting that to anything because it will just do it all by itself, just by going straight along like this. Now we're going to need to place a temporary block coming off of these two blue concrete. That way you won't connect these rails up and break your system. So you're going to place two rails starting from off the end. If you place one here, then it will connect to one of these and it will alter everything. And then you can break that one and just start placing in the rest of your rails for the final layer. So you go one powered and then one non-powered, and then just the rest will be powered rails all the way down to the blue concrete here. Now we're going to place a comparator in this gap that we made, and just make sure you hold shift when you click on this. You're going to place a grey concrete above that comparator. So now all of your rails are blocked in, and then obviously down the end here we can now break this block and just place two blocks going across the top here, and obviously this will be part of your wall, so whatever you want to make these out of, it's completely up to you. And I'm just going to clear this weather. Alright, now that that's sorted out, now we can actually place in some more redstone blocks. So you're going to take these down to the end, and in order to power these rails you just want to place redstone blocks on top of those. To be honest, you don't need the top one because these side ones will actually power it anyway. Now you can take your lever and you can actually place it here, but this is where I will kind of say that this part really depends on how you want to set this up. If you just want that lever on the wall, then it will work there. And if you want to have this in the floor, then you might need to do a bit of a different setup, which again I will go over at the end. Right, now we're going to set up the system for the blaze powder to stop the minecart so that it doesn't just completely fill up and keep moving around. It will only move when it needs to be filled. So you're going to place a redstone on top of that block and a block coming off the side of that redstone. This is me from the future. I did make an error here. You need to have one redstone dust on top of this block in order to actually lock that out. Now you want to take two comparators. You're going to place one here and then one going into the side of that, with the first one being on subtract mode. Then you can place a hopper or a chest. It doesn't really matter. I just used the hopper in my example. And you're going to place in one block inside of that hopper. And actually I forgot to include this in the items list, so you may need one extra block, but it can be anything. It doesn't really matter. And then finally you want to place a concrete on there, and then you need a redstone torch on the side of that block with a block above that. Now you want to take a sticky piston, and we're going to place that on the side, on the top of this torch, and that should extend like this. Then we're going to take one of these smooth stone blocks and place that attached on there. So now if you're going to just have it as part of your wall, then you can just place in your chests along the top like this. 6 chests above those grey concrete, with the middle being the one with the lever. And now we can actually go ahead and place in 2 more minecart hoppers, and one will be on the detector rail and one on the powered rail. I wouldn't place this one in yet because it will just get in your way, but this one will actually be on constantly. There's no real way to do it with the bottles, unfortunately, due to the way this is locking out, so that one does have to be on. I guess you could place a lever here as well, or somehow connect those both up if you wanted to do that. So now you want to come off the side of this chest here, and then you're going to place in 2 stone blocks and 2 hoppers going into that. So now we need to place a block coming 1 block down from this. So I think the easiest way will be to go on the side of this rail, place a block, and then you can break that bottom one. And then you'll have a block coming off of here where we can now place a comparator going off the side of that hopper, and this will detect when this bottle starts to empty. Now we're going to place a blue concrete coming off the side of the last hopper and also off the side of this comparator. From there we're going to place a sticky piston going off the side of that. And now we need our observers, so we can place in, we're going to go 2 out, and then you can break the first one and then place the second one again facing that way. So now you can see these are activating constantly, which will power the dispenser that we're going to place above this. So we place a dispenser on top of there, and if I just put some items in, you'll see they now move into this chest. But this is obviously where we're going to be filling this up with the glass bottles. So if I just grab those. So now you just want to make a little box here going around this dispenser so that there's only a 1 block gap in the middle in which we're going to place the water bucket. So once you've placed in your water bucket, you can place a hopper and a chest going above that. And this is where we will fill up this with the glass bottles. And just before I place those in, I'm going to fill up all of the top here so that that's all boxed in. That way none of the glass bottles are going to get spat out. And you can fill up as much of this as you like, and you'll see this should now start filling up with bottles of water. And you can see this is activating. Hopefully once this all fills up, and now you can see that this is filled up. Now that there is bottles in here, these will actually deactivate, which means that it won't be wasting any of your glass bottles. You can see this is still going down because it is obviously filling up this, but nothing is coming out. Now that that is done, you can actually place in your final minecart hopper. So if we just place that on top of there. Okay, so when you place that in, this hopper minecart might start moving. All you have to do is break this block, which allows this one to travel. And then once you place the block back in and it gets stuck, now it will stay. So you might just need to do that on the first attempt, and then after that you should be fine. And you'll see if I switch on this lever, the top minecart will go, and then if I switch it off, it does now in fact get stuck correctly, and this will keep going. And you can see this is now activating, and all of these bottles should be filling up. And this is completely full now, so this will keep going. That's the only annoying part about this brewer. But that is all the system for placing in the items done. All we need to do now is connect up the final part here where it detects the items being placed in. So to start off, you want to come and place 1 redstone dust on this block here. Then we need to place 2 droppers, 1 facing up, and then we also need 1 facing down. So you're going to place 2 blocks, break the middle one, and place your second dropper going down into that. Now we're going to come to the side. We're going to stand this side and place a observer facing out so that the face is facing onto this block, and then we need to also go above that observer and place 1 facing up so that the red dot is facing upwards. And then on top of that observer you're going to place 1 redstone dust like this. Now where that face is on the bottom, you're going to place a comparator going into that. Then we need to place in 2 hoppers facing into each other, so just place 1, break the first one and place it in, and you should see they're now connected like this. And this is where we're going to place in our 50 cobblestone items. So that will just continuously get stuck there for the moment. Now on top of the first hopper, the one closest to your brewers, you're going to place a block, and then you're going to place a redstone torch above the second hopper, and that should lock it, so now these items will stay in place. And finally, in this gap here, you're going to place a block on the side of the first dropper, and then a comparator coming off of the top dropper. So what this timing system is doing is it's just checking that the final item is getting brewed, and then it will activate all of these little things down here. So in order to connect that up, we're going to have a block coming off the side of the comparator in this little divot here, and then we're going to place a redstone torch coming off of that. On top of this redstone torch, we're going to need a dispenser facing to the side like this. So this faces onto this redstone block. And then this is where you're going to need your powdered snow. So we're just going to place 1 bucket inside of there. And essentially what that means is that when this redstone torch is affected by this, when it turns off, it won't activate. It will only activate when it turns on, which means when the last item leaves. So essentially it won't activate the system when we place the items in, it'll only activate the system when the last item leaves that hopper. Now we need to place an observer coming off the side of that. I don't know why that activated just by me placing that there, but okay. So we're going to place that back in. So you'll have an observer coming off the side, then you want one coming off the side of that observer, and then we just need to place a line of observers going down into this block so that when that activates, it will activate this, which then powers this dropper, turning on this little system here. We then have the same thing going on this side where we have a dispenser with another powdered snow bucket inside there, but we're going to wait a moment just because of what happened with the previous observers. And this thing will do the same, where this dispenser will only activate when this gets turned back on, which happens when this system has completed all of its little parts. And we're just going to go out with an observer off the side of that, so we have a 1 block gap here, and that will be for where the powdered snow is. And finally we just need to connect this observer by going out one and then across, so that we're going to connect down into this block down here. And that is the final step to connect all of that up, and that is actually now ready to use. So that is the brewer finish. So let's just run one so you can see exactly how it works. I'm just going to place in all of the blaze powder. If I essentially fill this all up, then you will see that starts traveling off, and then once there is enough blaze powder in the whole thing, but we have enough now to get started, this will actually stop. For now, let's just place in some items and show you it in action. I'm just going to make a simple potion of fire resist. Why has that happened then? So if I just click these in, they'll all go in, and you can see they're all in this hopper now. So when I click this, it will go off and place all of the items in as you would expect. It only needs 2 runs. And now you can see all of these are filled up with the correct items. So you should see when this final item goes into this, so we're going to see the magma cream finishes its part, and then we're going to see the redstone dust come into here. Then this should activate now. So you see that one pops up. And I didn't place an item in there. That is my fault. So there you go. You're supposed to have one item in this bottom dropper here. I'm going to place it in the top one just to activate that. So now this has started to go. The timing will be slightly off just because I messed that up by missing out on the one item. Funnily enough, I missed out on the actual world as well, the exact same item, so that's quite funny. And now that that finishes, you'll see this activates, sending off the minecart below, and these will all be locked out, so nothing is getting filled up here incorrectly. And I'm trying to, there you go. Now you can see the bottle's filled up as well, and you should have 27 fire resist potions. So let's do that one more time now that I fixed the issue with that item. Right, you can see now this item did go up into the top, which has activated that, which has started making this all empty out. Once that completely empties out, this block will disappear, and you'll see that now activates the system at the bottom. So that is now all working. 2 small fixes that I had to add in post finishing this, and now we have a full stack of the potions. 54 because we did 2 runs due to the issue. So obviously I mentioned earlier in the video that you can connect this up a slightly different way. Now of course this all depends kind of how you want to put it in your build. Obviously you can just put a wall here and have it straight up, and then you can just sort of reach these. I think you can reach them from just below and it should be fine. This one is a bit more difficult, but essentially the way I have it is this is underground. So one thing you can do to make this kind of fill up quicker is if you have a block here and you put a rail on top of that and then a hopper minecart, then you can break this, and essentially if you put a chest above that, that will actually now all connect up. So you should see if I just put 64 in, they go in very quickly and they end up in the bottom hopper, which is a lot better for this system. And if you put the hoppers instead of the hopper minecart here, it will take a lot longer, which means you'll just have to wait there while your items go in, which is why I prefer this way. And also you can put a floor. The only issue is that because of this you can't actually have that as your floor. So in my world I did actually lower this down by 1, and I had to come up with this whole other little system where it collects the bottles, and then it has a dispenser or a dropper going up here into this hopper to move them along so that you have your glass, your water bottles. But you can just have the floor like this and have the chest in the floor, so you could put your items in here, and then you could obviously have on the side here If you place a hopper like that, then you can obviously fill your blaze rods up here next to it, and then you've got your water bottles over here. It really depends how you want to do it, and obviously if I place items in here, you can see they do all go down into this bottom hopper. So this little setup here works for me. I don't think it will work for extending because the minecart hopper is actually just a little bit too far. Yes, you'll see it doesn't pick up. It only works because the bottom one is on a rail and this one's not on a rail. If you have two at the same height, it doesn't actually reach, which is why this only works for one layer, which is obviously why I have the chest placed like this, and then it does work. So it's a little bit of a gimmick to get that to be a bit quicker, but it just limits how low you can place this. You'd basically have to have it in your floor, or you would need to lower down the water bucket system. So this is actually how I have it placed in my world, and this barrel here is connected underneath to the hopper minecart like that, and then you can see the water buckets, they kind of go to the side a little bit, so you can see I've got this dropper here to raise it up. That way I've managed to lower this down one and keep it under the floor rather than above it. So really it just depends how you have it in your system and how you want to connect that up. As well as that, you can also see I have this little dropper tower here which goes up and just has a very simple torch tower to get the items to go back up into the barrel at this end where I'll collect all of the potions from. So the one final thing to consider if you're going to use the double minecart hopper technique is how to actually power the system. Now the easiest way I found to do it is to have a lever on this block next to this, and then you can actually just place 2 redstone dust in, one underneath the hopper minecart, and you'll see if I switch that on, it actually now activates it because it's powering this block, which is in turn powering the rail under there. And I think that's the cheapest, easiest way that I found to do it. Of course, if you wanted to connect this somewhere else, you might need to come up with your own method. And of course, in my one, like I said, this floor is actually one lower, so I actually have the lever on the side here. So because I tried to design mine to be inside of a bar, the way I actually managed to get it to work was by having the barrel like this and then a block here and then just having the lever on the side. So that's how I actually did it for my one. The main issue then is figuring out how to just lower that down by 1. But I guess if you had this near a wall, like if this was in your building like this, it wouldn't actually make a whole lot of difference to you. You could just have it in like this, so that would work as well. Well, I hope that was useful to you guys, and I hope you really enjoyed that. I know obviously a lot of people want automatic brewers, but they're always very complicated and very large, and I wanted something a little bit more compact for my world, and something where I didn't have to just make availability for every single potion, because there's only a few that I use really. If you found the tutorial hard to follow at all, I will be posting the Lightmatica schematic file in my Discord server, which you can find on my channel page. I hope that was helpful to you guys, and thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.